Okay, let's get started. So today I'm going to show you how to make a simple Node.js and Express app called PetsApp. So I have this repository here, and I'm going to clone it in GitHub. So I'm going to copy this link, and I have a terminal opened up to my home directory here, and I'm just going to do a git clone. I'm going to paste the URL, and then if I cd into cogs 121, I see a PetsApp v1 and then a skeleton. So this is the full working app. So I'm just going to go to it, clear my screen. There is a package.json file here. And what this package.json file does, I'm just going to view it in Vim, the text editor. You can use any text editor. Here, if you look at this express line, is that this is saying that Express is a dependency of this project. So what I can do now, if I exit out, if I say npm install, it should install the Express dependency. So once that's done, and I ls again, there's a node modules. This is where Express and all of the libraries it depends on are held. And if I run node space server.js here, this will actually start my server. So now what I can do is I can go to localhost :3000 in my browser and PetsApp.html. Okay, so this is my very simple application here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So if I click a button called Get All Usernames, it should return me all three users in my fake database. If I put in Philip as a name and I hit Get Profile, it'll say my job is professor, and here is a cat image of my pet, not my real pet. John, Get Profile. My job is student, it's a dog image. And Carol, I think, is the third one. And my job is engineer. So we're going to go over how do you build this from scratch using Node.js and Express. So the first step is to just go to my to the skeleton file, because I want to start building it up from scratch. So once again, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go do an npm install, just so I can install Express and the dependencies. And once that's done, what I'm going to do is start looking at what files are available. So you notice there's a static _ files subdirectory here. What that contains is all of the static, non-changing files for my project. So if I go to static files in here, I do an ls, you'll see that there's a bear picture, a cat picture, a dog picture, and a PetsApp.html file. And there's also jQuery, which is a front-end library we include. So if we open the static files directory, you'll see that there's these are exactly what's advertised, right? This is a bear picture right here on my computer. I'm going to just drag this in just to make sure everyone can see it. There's the bear picture, and then we drag it back out. There's the cat picture right here, and there's the dog picture. So those are just three files on the computer. Okay, so what is the first step to do? The first step is to modify the server.js file. So we have an empty server.js file. I'm going to delete the comment, and we want to start writing code to make a Node.js server. So what do we start with? The first step is just to make sure we have a hello world working. So again, a good habit to have when you're coding is to always just get to hello world. So I'm going to say console.log, I'll just do single quotes, hello world, and save the file. I'm in Vim, but you can use any text editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open another terminal so we can see it more clearly. I have two terminals open now. I have the text editor here, and then I have my terminal here. So I'm going to cd into cogs 121 PetsApp v1 skeleton again. So in this terminal, I'm going to run my Node.js server, and in this terminal, I'm going to edit my code. So you can imagine this being a text editor as well, but I just use Vim, which is in the terminal. You can use any text editor you want. Okay, so when I run node space, let's get rid of this. When I run no space server.js, what should happen? It should run this code right here, console.hello.world, and it would just run the code and exit. So if I press enter, it runs it runs the print hello world to my terminal, to my console, which is a terminal here, and it exits. I'll clear the screen, run it again, and it exits. So in this way, Node.js lets us write JavaScript code on the command line terminal, just like any other language, just like say Python or Ruby or Java or so forth. So nothing specific about building a web application yet. Okay, so we got into hello world. The next step is to actually create a web server. So to create a web server, we need to use this Express web application framework. So we're going to define a variable const express equals require express here. It's going to clean up the space. And then const app equals express. So what this says is we're going to import the Express library, and we're going to assign it to a variable called Express. And we're going to instantiate an Express object by calling it just like a function, and we're going to assign this to app. So we're going to end up using app throughout the rest of our code. So the first thing that we want our app to do is to serve static files. So for that, we say the following. So it says this app.use method says that we're going to use a special string called static files to denote a subdirectory inside our current directory where static files should be served from. So recall again, I'm going to save my code. Recall again that if I ls here, my static file subdirectory is in here. So this line means if an incoming web request comes in that asks for any file that is present in static files, we're going to go inside of static files, fetch that document for the user, fetch that file for the user, and return it to the user. So recall that static files on my Mac is this directory with exactly 5 things: a bear, a cat, a dog, jQuery, and PetsApp.html. Okay, so what happens if we run this now? What will actually happen is it'll run this line, it'll run this line, it'll run this line, and then it'll just exit because we actually haven't started the server yet. We've just configured the server, but notice if we run, it's kind of doing nothing, right? Because it runs these 3 lines and then it just exits. So to actually start a server in Express, what you do is you use app.listen with a port number. 3000 is usually what people use for testing on localhost on your computer. So the first parameter to listen is the port number, we'll say 3000, and the second one is an anonymous function to run when you're starting a listen. So recall this is the anonymous function syntax in JavaScript, which is a open and close parens, which means there is no parameters, and then this arrow, and then the function body, and then we're going to close this parentheses here, which matches the open one. So inside, I'm just going to do a console.log again, and something like server started at a certain URL. Doesn't really matter what you say here, but it's just nice to print out a message so that you know something's happening. Now, when we run this code, remember to save it. Always save before you run. When I run this code in the terminal, instead of just exiting right away, it will now say server started at HTTP localhost 3000, and it will hang there. So this server is hanging in effectively what is an infinite loop, and it's just waiting for requests to come into the server from various clients, such as a web browser. So the only way to stop the server, one of the only ways, is to do a Control-C. If you're on your terminal, if you do Control-C, it will send a kill signal to take down the server. And then I'll just clear the screen, you can start it again. Another way is if you just close your entire terminal, the server stops, or if your computer crashes, it stops. But assuming this doesn't happen, it's hanging there and it's waiting for requests. So what is the only kind of request we can make right now to our server? The only kind of request is a static files request. So recall that we had a few files that we could access. So if we go to the URL, if we go to HTTP localhost 3000 /cat.jpg. So what this URL says is that localhost is a special URL that means your own server. So whenever you start a server here, without any exposing any kind of domain, you're starting it on localhost. So that means you can access your own server from your own computer. There's your operating system knows how to do this. The :3000 corresponds to this 3000 right here. So if this was 5000, you would say 5000. It's just a port number to disambiguate different URLs. And then everything after the URL, the cat.jpg, is the resource you're looking for. So here we're going to query my localhost 3000 server, which is running right here, and we're going to ask for cat.jpg. So when I press enter in the browser, it will actually give me this beautiful Siberian cat studio photo. So why does it do that? It does that because when I asked for cat.jpg, it went in here in static files and tried to look for a cat.jpg in static files. And lo and behold, it exists, right? So remember how before in static files, there was a cat.jpg. So the kind of tricky thing here is that your cat.jpg is in the path static files inside of your root directory, but you're actually not asking for this, right? You're not doing static files cat like this. Well, my server's down, so I can't. So if I run my server and I ask for localhost 3000 static files cat, it can't find it because it's already looking in static files for a cat. So then now this is a request for static files / static files again in cat. So the bottom line is that you don't need the extra static files on the end. You just want to ask for cat.jpg. And by asking for cat.jpg, the server will look into static files because of this line right here. If Express didn't express, no pun intended, if it didn't express the fact that you need to go in static files, you wouldn't be able to find it. So similarly for dog, so dog is found and bear is found as well. And the last one we want to find is our HTML file, petsapp.html. So this file has been found in static files, and it's the PetsApp's skeleton app. It doesn't really have any content in it. So what is this one? Let's actually open it up. So I'm going to, in Vim, I can open different files. So I can open static files, petsapp.html. So this is the file I'm opening. This is the HTML file in static files. So this is just a skeleton HTML file with, I'll show you where it corresponds, right? This H1 is this thing right here. The name is an input box right here. Get profile is a button. Get all usernames is a button as well. And there's a few invisible divs down here to display data that we're going to stuff in it later. So the idea here is that it imports jQuery just as a convenience, and then you're supposed to write your own JavaScript in here. So this will implement the front end of our web app. Nothing is implemented yet, so these buttons don't do anything when I click because there's no JavaScript code that hooks them up yet. This is just an HTML skeleton.